Hey shooters, welcome back to the Shooters Resource Channel. Today we're going to be looking at Beretta's 92X. This is a great gun. There's several iterations of the Beretta 92. It's been around for a long time. But before we get started into the range footage and review, go ahead and take a second. Hit that like and subscribe button. Support the channel. Hey, and also several of you have been hitting me up asking me which holster are you using, which flashlight are you using, what is some gear that you recommend for this, or what scope. If you want to check out the description, I've got some affiliate links to show you some of the gear that I'm using along with the firearms that I'm showing in my videos. Thank you guys. All right. Beretta is the oldest active firearms manufacturer in the world. Its first product of arquebus barrels was back in 1526, which is really amazing. And in 1571, Beretta made barrels for a Venetian fleet at the Battle of Lepanto. And I'm not familiar with that battle, but it's really cool to think of Beretta as someone who's been making firearms for hundreds of years. And although they offer a wide variety, including very high-end shotguns and several other types of firearms, they're very well known for their 92 series. Now, the 92 series was introduced in 1975, and back then it was kind of unique, and it still is unique today. One of the big features that was different is the aluminum frame. A lot of the guns back then were using a metal frame. Now, a few other things that make this gun unique back then and even now is the open slide format. This ensures that brass clears when the slide racks back. You don't have some kind of small ejection port like you see on a lot of other firearms, which is really nice and adds to the reliability of this firearm. It's also very easy to disassemble. There's just a button here and then a lever to pull down, and the gun comes apart. You just flip the lever back up and your gun's back together. So very easy to disassemble. And another thing that made this unique back in 1975 was the capacity. 15 rounds of 9mm was quite a bit in compared to other offerings on the market. The Beretta 92 was first tested and adopted by the Brazilian government. And the testing that the Brazilian government did raised a lot of eyebrows and made people aware of the quality that Beretta has to offer. In 1977, the Italian police adopted a drop-safe version of the Beretta 92. And you can see here that drop-safe version, that drop-safe feature is still there in the guns today. So you can see the firing pin block rise as you're pulling the trigger, which is a really interesting design. Many guns have a firing pin block, but very few are you able to actually see external on the firearm. So very cool design by Beretta. How'd you like that Beretta?
Not bad.
But in 1977, the Italian police adopted a drop-safe version. And then in 1979, Beretta submitted the 92S1 to the Air Force testing that the U.S. military asked for. And in 1980, Beretta won by a large margin versus other 9mm on the market. They even beat out the SIG P226. And then in 1985, it was finally adopted by the U.S. military. Now, since then, several soldiers have carried this gun into combat, and it's just now being phased out by SIG's P320 series, the M17 and M18 that won the military contract. Hey, I'd also like to tell you guys about a company called GrovTec. They reached out and sent a few products to me to test, and I've been really impressed. Now, they primarily make rifle slings, and I find them of very good quality. You'll see them in some of my up-and-coming bolt-action reviews. But they also make a product called the bedside holster. And I'm a man who used to use my nightstand to hold my gun, but it doesn't work nearly as good as the bedside holster, which puts the gun in the perfect position to get to it fast. And they make a product that is for hiking that I really enjoy as well. You hikers know that your backpack has load-bearing straps that go across your waist. Well, that impedes traditional carry of your firearm. So if you want to carry a mid to full-size gun, this chest holster that they have is a really great system. So check it out from GrovTec. Now, there are a few complaints of the Beretta 92 or M9 while it was being used in the military. Some of those complaints include the weight. Now, this gun is a fairly heavy gun. This 92X version is 33 ounces. However, the version that the soldiers carried is coming in right at about 35 to I think it's 35 ounces, just a little heavier. And the M17 is coming in several ounces lighter. Another common complaint is the ergonomics. Now, this has a nice slim grip on the X style, so they definitely corrected that. So they shaved a few ounces off. They corrected the grip and made it slimmer, which is very welcomed. This grip, I believe, will not only suit those with small hands, but medium and even some large hand folks will prefer this grip, I believe, over the traditional. Now, if you like the traditional, they do include a set of grips that will bring you back to that traditional width and feel. So it adds a little more of a hump in the back here, and it adds some girth to the overall grip. But not only is it the grip that impacts ergos, it's also like the high slide riding safety. So this is something that I have a problem with as well. I have found that I often engage the safety when I don't mean to when I'm in my range sessions, and that's not something you want to do if you're counting on this gun to defend your life. There are what they call G versions of this safety / decocker that is a decocker only. And I'm going to be sending this gun off to Langdon Tactical, and they have offered to install that G-style decocker, as well as doing a trigger job on this 92X for the channel so that we can do a review later on. So look forward to that coming out in the near future. Another one is reliability. Now, that might be odd to many people because the Beretta 92 went 35,000 mean rounds to failure, which is really impressive. When Beretta won the contract, instead of Metgar getting the magazines, what happened was a company called Checkmate won out the mag contract. And so you see a lot of magazine-induced failures out on the market. And then also you hear some complaints about the trigger, especially the double action trigger. So the double action trigger on this gun is fairly heavy. It's probably coming in somewhere around, 9 pounds or so. But the single action is pretty sweet. And even though the double action is 9 pounds, it's still a very smooth 9 pounds. And a lot of people prefer a double action trigger over a striker fire single action trigger for their first trigger pull, because in a defensive situation, that allows you to show a little extra constraint. It would be much easier to mistakenly pull the trigger when your adrenaline's going if you've got a 3-pound trigger with an 1/8 inch travel. It's a great trigger for shooting targets downrange, but this 9-pound double action trigger might help you in a situation when you're relying only on gross motor skills. I will say the trigger on the 92X is a very good trigger, and I'm very pleased with it, and I honestly would be perfectly fine with just leaving the trigger as is, especially if I was planning on using this gun exclusively as a defensive gun. Lastly, some other complaints that I've heard in the past is accuracy. And, the Beretta 92, this 92X has been extremely accurate. I think this is a very accurate platform. You see a lot of competition shooters, especially now that the Beretta 92X performance version is out with the all-steel slide. You see a lot of folks running them for competition. All right, Beretta is proposing this gun for competitive dynamic shooting as well as defensive purposes. And I would agree with that. I think you can really buy this gun and do both with it. I think if you're choosing to use this gun in competition, going for a Wilson Combat or a Langdon Tactical trigger is probably the way to go. Now, this gun does have a 4.7 inch barrel, so it's a pretty cool barrel design. I really like that it does not tilt like the traditional Browning tilting action that you see on so many guns these days. especially all your striker fire guns. That barrel stays directly in line, which also helps add to accuracy because bullets feed directly into the barrel. And we can see that. I'll take a dummy round that I have and we'll load it in there and we'll see how that goes. So no primer in this round. And you can see that that bullet doesn't have to work to get into the chamber. It's just so easy. And the same with the ejection of brass. The brass can go in any direction, and it's just going to be flailed out of the gun. So it just a great design there with the open exposed barrel as well as the non-tilting action. That is a really great design. And I believe that's why they were able to achieve the 35,000 mean rounds to failure. Also, in terms of ergonomics, like I'd mentioned before, this is a 33.3 ounces, which is a really nice weight for a pistol. I prefer that. Not to say that if I had, tons of weight in terms of kit and all that stuff on, that I'd be wanting to throw on a 33-ounce gun. But in terms of concealed carry or competition gun, the mid 30 ounce gun is a pretty good weight in terms of recoil mitigation, especially because the Beretta's bore axis is a little high, but you can still shoot this gun really fast. The Vertex style thin grips are really nice. As I mentioned before, it allows you to really get a good grip around and still have access to your controls without really breaking your grip. And I really appreciate that. A lot of gun manufacturers can't get that right. But that, I would say that slide release is really nice too. And the mag release, and when I say the slide release is nice, it's a great location, but also just the amount that it protrudes from the slide. Everything's just about perfect on here. And it's tucked out of the way as well. I found that when I run this gun, I don't have a problem with the slide not locking back. It typically locks back when I empty the gun. And also the mag release. It's not necessarily that it's protruding, out past the grip or it's an extended mag release, but it's a very wide mag release. I think that helps out a lot in terms of being able to get to it, even if you're wearing gloves or, you haven't shot this pistol in a while. It's very easy to find and get to. And it's got a little texturing on it, but just a great mag release all the way around. And it is reversible.
That was pretty smooth right there.
If needed.
That was 3.66 seconds. So right at 3.7, which is pretty decent. All hits on target.
The mag well on the gun is beveled, which is pretty standard on most of your guns these days, but it's a nice feature. I'd hate to get a gun that doesn't have a beveled mag well. That would be horrible. And as mentioned earlier, this is the 92X. That's just a standard offering. Has a safety. It's a slide mounted safety. And if you go to this side of the pistol, you can run it as a decocker as well. So if you go down to safe and you go right past that, that gets you into the decocker mode. So you have to go right past it, which I really like. Double action guns with a decocker, I prefer them not to have a safety, and so that's why I'm going to go with the G style conversion on here and change this to a safety only, or sorry, change this to a decocker only and remove its ability to go on safe. The main reason why I do that is because I carry appendix a lot, and even just carrying in general, I love the added safety of a double action, single action gun, being able to place my thumb on the hammer there as I holster into the gun. And that's the reason why is because if anything was to get into this trigger guard, the gun's not going to be able to fire with my thumb on the back of that hammer, which is really great. In terms of like holstering when you're in, carrying appendix, that can be some risky business. A t-shirt or something small could really bump that trigger and you could have a bad accident, a really bad day. And nobody wants that. I want to take care of the boys, so I do appreciate a double action, single action for carry. When it came to the performance of this gun, I was very pleased. As I had mentioned, the trigger, the 4.7-inch barrel, the sight radius, all of that contributed to really good accuracy. So they got a good barrel in this gun. The sights are pretty good as well. So the sight is You know, one thing that's unique on the 92X versus the traditional 92 series is that this front sight is dovetailed in versus part of the slide. So you can change it out if you don't like it, but it's just this fluorescent orange light, and it works out pretty good. Now, in terms of speed and being able to run this gun fast, like I said, it's got a great balance. The weight at 33 ounces is pretty good and helps control the muzzle rise. So I found that I was able to shoot this gun fairly fast. Just all around, this is a great package from Beretta. I really like all of the improvements that they made to the 92X versus some of the other 92 series. They've done a great job, and they've really perfected everything. The beaver tail feels really good. I would say the grips are very aggressive, maybe a little too aggressive. They do bother my skin when they rub up against it when I'm carrying concealed. However, carrying outside the waistband is not a problem. You know, you can see here I keep bumping the light, but I've got a Streamlight TLR1 on here on this 1913 Picatinny rail. It runs very good. You got 3 slots here for adjustment, so you won't have any problem finding the right light. So if you're in the market for a new defensive gun that you can use for competition, or home defense, or just a multi-use gun, a good range gun, the Beretta 92X is a great gun to check out. I've really enjoyed shooting it. I look forward to seeing what Langdon Tactical can do in terms of improving the trigger and removing the safety. So look forward to that review. But overall, I'm pretty impressed with this gun. This is my first Beretta that I've owned. Say that kind of shamefully. I wish I would have gotten one earlier, but I'm very pleased with it. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and take a second, hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to know about the gear, check out the affiliate links in the description. And as always, thank you all, and God bless.